Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
This week on the Kindness Project, we talk about the harmonious tones of a dying nightingale, the Muppets, and we interview Jeannie Boyle.
Hi and welcome to another episode of the Kindness Project. I'm joined by Charlotte Dames, the person who introduces podcasts the slowest in the world.
I'm offended, and I am joined by Chris Dames, the man with the harmonious voice of a dying nightingale.
I thought my voice was more like a dying sparrow. But I suppose it's better than being a dying otter. That would be, you wouldn't want the harmonious voice of a dying otter, would you? Is that, was that your, do you want to do your dying otter impression again? Oh, the cough! The cough is back, listeners. The cough is back.
Never went away.
So here is Charlotte. I'll give you, do you want a drum roll?
Yes, please.
Okay, here is Charlotte's impression of a dying otter. Apparently, listeners, that's a dying otter. And if you don't know what I'm talking about in terms of the slowest podcast introduction in the world,
then you're not listening to these in chronological order.
Oh, don't ever go at the listeners. They listen whatever order they want. We're talking about podcast 14, where Charlotte decided to talk like that for the first 2 minutes of the podcast.
It was my first introduction.
All right, we'll get you to do more, and I'm sure you'll get there. So I've got the dulcet tones of a dying what?
The harmonious tones of a dying nightingale.
As we've had your dying otter impression, can you just help us with a dying nightingale impression as well? Now, I wish my voice was that harmonious, genuinely, but actually it's not that harmonious. It's just the cockney wafflings of a man born in Canning Town.
Trying to Sing Human by Regan Bowman.
Well, that is my karaoke song of choice, Human by Regan Bowman.
Yep.
And on it, I can do half of the song relatively well.
And then he breaks out into his deep bellow of a voice, and that's all you can hear for like 3 blocks.
Yeah. What's your karaoke song of choice at the minute?
I don't have a karaoke song of choice. I kind of just sing whatever's on, even if I don't like it, because I enjoy singing.
What song would you duck out of? What song would you avoid?
Anything by Justin Bieber.
Anything by Justin Bieber? Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. So, we will talk about question of the podcast in a minute, but can we let people know? A couple of things before we start, listeners. iTunes. So, we need some more iTunes reviews, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
And why did you just poke me in the nose? You're getting a bit of a visual interpretation of what's going on, listeners. So we thank you, firstly, for the iTunes reviews so far. They're really appreciated. But if you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a review somewhere. It helps more people find us. And, it's really useful. And it's, you know what, sometimes when Charlotte and I are sitting in a room on our own, we do have a laugh doing these podcasts. But it's good to know that somebody somewhere is listening. I don't know why you are, to be frank, but if you are, we really appreciate it. See, you don't care, do you? You enjoy just sitting down having a chat with me and just doing the project.
If it got full steam, I would expect better. I'm just saying.
If this went
full steam,
if we had like millions of downloads, you'd want a salary.
Yes, please.
My own daughter, listeners, wants a salary for doing a podcast with me. I don't know whether to be the proudest I've ever been or actually a little bit scared.
I'm doing work in this too, can't deny that.
No, you are doing work. And what we're going to do, we're going to pay Russell as well.
Yeah.
Russell. Yeah, we've got to talk about Russell as well, because Charlotte and I get together and record the segments and the interviews for the podcast.
We live together.
But we do live together. But we often, you live in your room and I live downstairs with the rest of the family, because you're a 14-year-old hermit at times. I just drag you out to get this podcast done. But there is a silent partner, a man so anonymous, he only goes out at midnight. is Russell. So Russell,
That's not the introduction I want to use.
what introduction would you use for Russell?
A man so anonymous, he comments on all the posts.
So Russell is the man who is the true. If we're the face and the voice of the podcast, I don't know which is which.
Face, obviously, I'm fab.
Yeah.
No.
Russell is the man that just gets stuff done. So thank you, Russell. I know you like to stay as the silent partner of the podcast, but we appreciate the work you're doing. And he might edit all this out because he wants to stay a secret, but he might not.
If he wanted to stay a secret, why would he comment on all the questions he knows are for the podcast?
Exactly true. He likes to get involved, doesn't he? So thank you, Russell. We really appreciate it. And thank you, listeners. I really appreciate, or we both really appreciate you listening, and I'm sure Russ does too, right? Okay, so I've begged for iTunes reviews. I'm now going to beg for an answer to this week's question of the podcast. Do you know what it is? So I love certain shows.
Yeah.
One of the shows I love, and I've loved for years, is the Muppets. But the big question of the podcast is, who's your favourite Muppet?
Fozzie.
Straight away with Fozzie. So what?
I would love to just be Fozzie.
I think you are Fozzie. I've heard your jokes. So tell me why Fozzie.
Because, he's always trying to make everyone laugh.
Okay.
Whether people like it or not, he's always trying to bring a smile to someone's face. And he does try and come up with his own original stuff. He's not just like
Oh yeah, alternative comedian Fozzie Bear.
yeah, it's like Google jokes about, I don't know.
I can't believe the other day, Saturday afternoon, you, Mum, me and Sophie sat there on our sofa Googling jokes to tell each other.
Oh my god, my favourite one. Who built Sir Arthur's round table?
Don't know.
Circumference.
Oh God, they get worse. And I did threaten in a previous podcast to bring my book of dead jokes in, and I still might do that actually. So, listeners, who is... Oh, you haven't asked me who my favourite Muppet is.
No, I was going to say...
Oh, I don't get to talk now, do I?
No.
Are we sharing this podcast or not?
I'm just kidding. If anyone comments and says to bring in the dead book, please don't.
Listeners, I'll do a Twitter poll. Shall we bring in the Book of Dead Jokes for a Dead Joke special podcast episode?
If it was just in the podcast, that'd be kind of like...
Yeah.
Why are you telling a random dad?
Yeah, should we have a podcast episode in the future where it's just random dad jokes?
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
All right, we're going to do that. Okay, so, would you like to know who my favourite Muppet is?
Yeah, go on then.
There's only one. Better than Fozzie. Better than Waldorf and Statler.
It's Animal.
Better than Kermit. Can you let me do me run up first?
It's better than obviously it's Animal.
So Animal is and he's been my favourite for years. I don't know why. I just...
Nuts. It's a bit like you.
Oh, cheers, mate. Animal is definitely my favourite Muppet. But we want to hear about who your favourite Muppet is. So you can get in touch with us in the following ways.
Are you going to leave it to me?
Your turn.
Okay, so all our kindness, HMLA kindness, do not.
I didn't say a word.
Do not. And then the email is Ola.
Why are you rubbing your head?
I'm trying to remember it.
Oh.
Ola at thekindnessproject.co.uk.
Yay!
And his Twitter is at Chris Davis.
Who's in? Your cat's mother?
Your Twitter is...
Your listeners can't see you pointing.
The old man's Twitter.
Oh! Painful.
At Chris Davis. CHR.
You forgot my name!
Intentionally. CHRISD space DAEMS. Oh, is there not?
No.
And then there's mine, and it's Charlotte J. Dames, so CHARLOTTJDAEMS.
Excellent. So, that was particularly nonsensical this time. Should we get on with the show?
Give me funny looks, but yeah.
Excellent. So, Charlotte, it's the part of the show we all love, mainly because of the jingle. Are we ready?
Let me
No,
do it.
you can.
Kindness news. I'm going to drink it out.
Oh, God. How long's that going to last? Kindness news. But before we annoy all of our listeners so much they stop listening, all of our 2 listeners. No, we've got a few now. Actually, we're doing all right with listeners. We're becoming increasingly popular, which is cool.
We're going to be famous.
No, I won't go that far. No. Tell us your story of kindness news this week.
Okay, so woman reveals her random act of kindness made her year just months after bike crash in the same spot.
Okay.
A woman found a bouquet of flowers and heartwarming note at her local bus stop has told of how the random act of kindness had made her year. Ruth Clark, 26, who lives in Hackney, was en route to work when she spotted...
Where does she live?
Hackney.
Why do you pronounce the H on that? Because that's not your typical thing, is it? Is it not acne?
No, because that's something entirely...
She lives in Hackney. Hola, kindness. Go on, she lives in Hackney.
Was en route to work when she spotted a bunch of flowers resting on the seat of her local bus stop with a note attached.
Okay.
It transpired that the flowers had been left by a stranger who simply wanted to brighten someone else's day, and it seems those flowers are destined to find Ruth, who just months before had been involved in a serious bike accident meters away from the stop.
So near the bus stop? Mm-hmm. Oh, right, okay.
She has said that this act of kindness was particularly important and touching as it brought back a lot of memories of the kindness strangers demonstrated in that moment on the same street just a few months ago.
Okay, cool. We've got an interview coming up with somebody called Bernadette Russell, and she is incredibly good at just walking the streets of London doing that sort of thing. So she leaves bunches of flowers on bus stops, and for Valentine's Day she'll go out and leave a bunch of different cards around, and she does that sort of thing. So I love that story. It's a great story, isn't it?
Yep.
Give me another one.
Let's see.
Are we coughing after every story as well as on the jingle now, or what?
No, it's just I got something stuck in my throat.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay, I don't know if that's something good. Football fans can be fierce rivals, but the reaction of supporters in the wake of explosions near a Champions League team bus show that the kindness trumps any competition. 3 bombs went off near Borussia Dortmund.
Borussia Dortmund, yeah. This was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Which was carrying them to their Champions League quarter-final match against Monaco on Tuesday. The match was postponed until the following day as a result.
What's the date of this one?
April 2017.
Okay, so it was April last year, yeah?
Yeah, the match was postponed until the following day as a result, leaving fans who travelled for the game at a loose end and some with nowhere to stay. As a gesture of solidarity, Monaco fans began chanting Dortmund from the stands of the German Westfalen studio where the match had been due to take place.
Okay.
The home fans then went on to extend the kindness to visitors in return, using the hashtag #BedForAwayFans and Table for Away Fans. Local supporters offered Monaco fans dinner and somewhere to stay.
Oh, I love that. So, because there was more traffic and they couldn't get home, they offered sort of away fans.
Yeah, and there's loads of pictures as well.
Of fans getting together, helping each other out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you've got a common interest, football, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it, I think if the reality is that we're saying people are generally good, which we believe they are, it's really nice to see fans helping each other out. But can I ask a little favour for next week?
Yep.
You know when you're doing kindness news?
Yeah.
You know the news bit? Mm-hmm. It helps if it's relatively new. That's a year-old story. It's a good one.
I'm just putting them on the table as they come to my attention.
Just come to your attention, lay them out and do it. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Charlotte. So this week, Charlotte, we've got an interview for our story of the podcast. A lady called Jeannie Boyle. Now, Jeannie works for a company called EQ Investors. They're a financial planning firm in London town. But we talk about business and kindness, because I think that business and kindness are linked, and you can be in business and do good. And there's we talk about a range of different subjects, including B Corps and their businesses that have made the commitment to do good in society as well as running a commercial business. We talk about business being a force for good, and we also talk about eggs. because that's our favourite subject. And she's got a awesome suggestion for what's the best use of an egg. Would you like to listen to the interview?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm joined today by Jeannie. Is it Jeannie?
It is Jeannie, yes.
I was struggling with the pronunciation actually, but I'm glad I got it right. So it's Jeannie Boyle. And before we get on to the interview questions, Jeannie, I know that you got involved in one of our previous podcast questions of the day about eggs, right? So
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what your ideal egg dish is.
My ideal egg dish, and probably one of my most favouriteest dishes in the world, is very simple.
Okay.
Slice of probably sourdough bread, lightly toasted, smothered in real butter and topped by a fried egg.
Oh, that does sound good.
That is a thing of beauty.
That does sound really good. I think you know what, we've been talking about eggs. Out of all of the podcast questions of the day, it seems to be the one that's generated the most response. And somebody said to me, and it was on Twitter, wasn't it? Somebody said an omelette. It's the only thing I can cook in my house. So the only thing we ever have that's cooked by me is an omelette, and it's always better when it's a duck egg. I think a duck egg omelette, just lovely big juicy omelette, is really good.
Oh, I've only ever had a standard chicken egg omelette.
Have you never had a duck egg omelette?
Make that a new life goal.
Well, I think your the answer to your question of your favourite egg dish might change when you've had a duck egg omelette. They are awesome. They're brilliant.
I will update you.
So tell me a little bit about you.
I'm a financial planner like you, and I'm a director of a business called EQ Investors, based up in London.
Yeah.
I live down in Brighton by the seaside.
Okay. How far are you away from the sea?
At the moment, I could get there in 5 minutes at a brisk walk.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's very, very nice. Very lucky.
And how long have you been a financial planner?
I've been working in financial planning for, I think, nearly 12 years now.
Okay. And you mentioned that you're a director of a company. Tell me a little bit about EQ Investors.
EQ Investors has been going for just over 3 years now. Before that, we were a company called Truestone Asset Management, and we were set up by John Spears, who previously formed and ran Best Invest.
Okay.
And we were set up really to try and do things a little bit differently. So we want to deliver excellent financial planning, brilliant investment management to all our clients, but we knew that we wanted to deliver those things in a way that was accessible to lots of people, helped people really engage at an emotional level with their money, what it can do for them, because that's really at the heart of financial planning. I think you probably know that. You know, this is that it's about helping people achieve what they want to do with their life. It's not really about money. Yeah. That's just a detail, really. And part of that was doing business differently and also offering different choices in terms of investment. So making sure people had the option to invest what used to be called ethically, now we tend to call it impact investing.
Okay. Why do you think there's been a change in sort of terminology around that? Because ethical investing, why do you think it's now called impact investing? Is it because people want to make sure their money makes a difference instead of just not doing harm?
Absolutely right. So, if you look back to 10 years ago, ethical investing meant screening out tobacco, arms, oil, and other things that you perceived as doing harm. And that could lead to some slightly odd investment outcomes. Yeah. People have got wise to the idea that they can use their money positively. They can use it to make a change in the world. And that's a really attractive thing because it tends to mean investing in companies that are solving problems. And they tend to be quite fast-growing companies, so it delivers a great financial return. But it makes you feel good about your money too. Yeah.
And as you've said, money often is an emotional conversation instead of just a financial one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But being able to feel good about your investments, I think is brilliant for people. And if you can demonstrate and try and measure the positive impact you're having, then that makes people feel good about what they're doing. And it promotes conversations about money in a whole new way. If we see it as a force that we can harness for positive change instead of something slightly icky and people feeling uncomfortable about people who've accumulated vast wealth, we can see the potential in it.
So we met for the first time a couple of days ago, didn't we? Which was really nice to meet you before we sort of conducted this interview. But I am a firm believer in sort of having the ability to do well and do good. I don't think those two things are in any way mutually exclusive. And certainly we're seeing a lot more companies sort of getting involved in that area. But we met because of my interest, and literally I'm just I'm a learner in this field of an organisation called B Corp. Now I know EQ Investors is a B Corp. Can you help me understand what that means and how it impacts the running of your business?
Yeah, B Corps are companies that have made a commitment to delivering positive benefits for not just their shareholders, but also for their customers, for their staff, for their communities, and for the world around them in general.
Okay.
So it's about delivering positive change. But we absolutely accept that businesses are here to be profitable.
Yeah.
We wouldn't exist if we weren't making profits.
Yeah.
But we're also looking at the impact we have on other stakeholders.
Yeah, absolutely. And how does that manifest itself in the day-to-day running of the business?
So to become a B Corp, you have to have it written into your articles and memorandums that you want to do good for the world around you and all of these different stakeholder groups. So whenever we're making decisions about what we're doing in the business, we're thinking back to those groups and making sure that we understand the impact of what they're doing. We're committed to delivering really positive outcomes for everyone who's engaged with us.
Yeah.
At EQ, we are just in the process of appointing staff champions to work in each of those areas.
I like that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody will be the voice of the staff and everything. Someone will be for clients. Someone will be working on the environment and in the community.
Okay. I really like that idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, we're about 60 people, so we've got lots of people with loads of ideas. We're also convening a staff forum as well to help us make sure that our staff and our people are really engaged in everything that we're doing.
Okay.
It's very easy to get stuck in the top-down world of management.
Okay.
We're firm believers in people being able to manage themselves. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's empowerment, isn't it, as opposed to...
Yeah.
But can I say one thing about our meeting? I'm a bit disappointed, to be honest, because you did say that when we met and when you record any podcasts, you tend to put on your really posh voice. And I was expecting something like really regal. I mean, I know I'm probably bringing my Cockney accent's probably bringing that down a bit, but I was expecting like a Queen-like voice. And look, it's a great voice, but what happened to the regal voice, Jeannie?
I'm obviously feeling very comfortable. If anyone listens to me talking on earlier stuff, I do seem to just go very, very posh. And I am from Surrey. I am naturally quite well spoken.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I get really hammed up whenever I'm being recorded, but I think because I'm sitting at home talking to my iPad, I'm quite comfortable.
Yeah, I tend to go in the other direction. I tend to get, when I'm on the radio, I tend to go a lot more common than I am, which is a weird way to go, really. I even used the word blimey on the radio once, and I never use that word.
I just said, oh goodness, and I wouldn't normally.
Okay, so how did you get involved? How did EQ Investors and you personally get involved with becoming a B Corp?
We heard about the movement early on. The B Corp movement started in the US, and one of the big companies who signed up over there that you've probably heard of is Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
Yeah.
But we heard about the movement launching in the UK, and we just understood immediately that it really fitted with how we wanted to do business.
Yeah.
So we were one of the first companies to sign up in the UK.
Okay. How long have you been involved?
2 years.
Right. Okay. Cool.
We just recertified for the second time.
And that recertification process is an annual process?
Yes, you have to do it. You have to go through the process to initially become a B Corp. Yeah. And this isn't a simple tick box exercise. Yeah. You have to go through an assessment that asks you about various areas of your business.
Yeah.
And it's fairly in-depth, and you have to score a certain number of points out of, I think, a potential 200 to get in. So it's not an exercise in greenwashing. You have to really mean what you say, and you have to think about how you can implement the values throughout your business.
And I'd imagine there's a lot of changes that occur during that thought process. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we've been prompted to do, having just recertified, is to look at our supply chain.
Okay.
That's something we've not really done in any great depth before, but we want to understand the companies that we do business with.
Yeah, I agree.
Do their values match ours? And we're not expecting everyone we do business with to certify as a B Corp, but you start to ask questions about when does this paper come from?
Yeah.
Or look at the coffee. Shouldn't we get some fair trade coffee?
Yeah.
And it does start to touch everything you do, and it's a different way of thinking, and I think it's a great way of thinking.
I like that. Do you think more businesses should have an ethos of do well and do good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Because once you start, I think it's quite easy, and I think a lot of people worry that it's going to impact on their profitability. And buying things like fair trade coffee can be a little bit more expensive, but I think it can also be very profitable in that clients want to engage with businesses that they think treat the world and their customers properly.
Yeah.
People want to buy free range eggs, they want to buy fair trade stuff. Yeah. They don't want to engage with companies that don't pay their taxes or don't their work as well.
Yeah, agree with that. And I think in our space where sort of people are looking for people they sort of trust and share values, I think being a good person is and having a good business and a business that does the right thing is fundamentally important. Do you think business is always a force for good? And if not, why?
I think sometimes businesses let themselves down, and I think the desire to chase short-term profit, impact on share prices can lead them to do things that they wouldn't have done otherwise. And if you look at Volkswagen and their emissions testing, that was driven by profitability.
Agreed. Yeah.
I'm thinking in short-term ways of thinking, and I think we have to link our incentives to long-term performance and long-term outcomes rather than focusing on share prices over short periods.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think really interestingly, I've been watching a documentary that's just come on Netflix a couple of weeks ago called Dirty Money, and it's all about the businesses that have taken decisions to grow short-term profitability in sacrifice of doing the right thing. And interestingly, there's sort of 5 or 6 documentaries, one about pharmaceuticals, one about banking and money laundering, which is really interesting. But the first one was about Volkswagen. And it was an interesting story because they did market their diesel car as being sort of incredibly clean, when in actual fact the emissions coming out of it were huge. So that's an interesting, as I'm watching that and thinking all of these businesses want short-term financial gain, but sacrifice doing anything right. And I think that when I look at sort of the way we do things as a business, but also just as an individual, I'd rather be able to go home and make my kids proud than sort of go home with an extra few quid. So it's interesting how people make those decisions. But I'd imagine in sort of bigger businesses where sort of shareholders are involved, the pressures are different, right?
Absolutely, because you lose that contact with your client. I think that people like you and I, Chris, working in relatively small businesses, however far we take the business, we'll always have contact with our clients. You have to sit down, you have to look them in the eye. And if you're simply about making as much money as you can, A, you're probably not going to have that client for very long, but B, how can you look them in the eye?
Exactly.
I think financial services companies are really well placed to adopt these ways of working because we have that real connection with our clients.
Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely. So you're, and this is another podcast question of the week, but I want to share it with you. So we asked actually it's coming up on a later podcast. It's if you had one thing that Jeannie, we're going to make you supreme ruler of the world. Okay, you can change one thing. What would you change?
Gosh. What would I change if I could change one thing? I would stop the war, man.
So just no violence, right?
No more violence.
I like it.
Just put down the guns, put down the knives.
But you know what we had? Interestingly, you say that we had so when we asked this question, we had loads of comments coming back saying every conflict in the world would be better solved through dialogue as opposed to through violence. Now that may be a bit idealistic, but I like the idea of that. I like the idea of that.
Absolutely. I mean, just it's just completely unnecessary. Just to have a nice cup of tea and a tour. Out.
A fried egg on some sour bread toast and an omelette, if like whatever one you want, you know, and we'll make the world a better place. But actually, what would it be? What one change would you make to the world to make it kinder?
I think I always try to remember when someone's been horrible to me or been a bit rude or shoved in front of me on the train.
Yeah.
That person has probably had a really horrible day, or they've got something going on in their world that's making them act like that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in 99.9999% of the people in the world being good and nice and kind.
Yeah.
But sometimes stuff makes them forget.
Yeah,
they are good and nice and kind and react in ways that we don't really need to. So just take a breath before you hit back.
I think often we get stuck in our own heads, don't we? And that causes certain behaviours that probably we don't aspire to behave like all the time. And where can people find more about you, more about EQ Investors, and more about the B Corp process?
They can find out lots about EQ Investors and me on our website, which is www.eqinvestors.co.uk. B Corp website has lots of information about signing up to be a B Corp. And if anyone wants to have a chat with me about the process, they're more than welcome to get in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed our chat. And I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Oh, cheerio.
Bye. So first of all, what do you think about business for good? Do you think it's possible to have a commercial business that employs people and makes money and do good?
Yeah, I think it is, because, like, you know, there are some people and they make money off being kind. Like, what products can I think of? There's something.
Yeah. A lot of businesses have kindness within their values, right? Within the values of the business. And what did you think about Jeannie's suggestion?
Perfect solution for eggs. I mean, I've never tried it.
What, poached egg on sourdough bread, you mean? Yeah?
Yes.
You think that's a perfect solution?
I mean, I prefer my...
Better than my omelette, is that what you're saying? That's a no comment. So, I hope you enjoyed that interview.
We've reached that time again.
Quick question. Why are your socks distracting you? You just said, I said, stop being distracted. You went, I've got to take my socks off. Why are your socks distracting you so much?
Because I like to wiggle my toes and feel the fabric on my socks.
And that distracts you from recording the podcast, does it? All right, okay. So what time have we reached?
The end of the podcast.
Oh, the end of the podcast. But the end of the podcast, we know by now that the end of the podcast isn't really the end of the podcast, because we've got one other thing to do, haven't we? Well, we've got two things to do, but yeah.
For my moment.
Go off again and start.
Last week's question of the week, answered this week, answered last week, answered this week.
Okay. And last week's question of the week. Oh, we've also got the some stories of kindness, listener stories of kindness to share as well. But the last week's question of the week was...
What would your superhero name and superhero power be?
Do you want to read a couple out?
Okay, let me have a look. Comfortably warm man, impervious to the cold.
I love that. And that was from Jamie Jenkins, by the way. You can find him on Twitter @PensionsGuy. Now, Jamie, I know, lives in Scotland. He doesn't live in a particularly north part of Scotland, but he does live in Scotland. And it's a bit nippy up there, right?
Yeah.
So being impervious to the cold might be a good thing. Now
I'm in England right now, and I'm still wearing my puffer jacket.
It is, yeah. We've had another beast from the east spell, and Charlotte's quite cold. But I get cold really easily, don't I? Mm-hmm. So when I come downstairs and everybody's got every single door and window open in the house,
Everyone shut them. I'll be like, no.
I'd like to have the skill of being impervious to the cold. Martin from London Money had one.
Fat face, invisibility.
Now, I don't know whether the fat face bit and the invisibility bit
are linked at all.
Are linked, but invisibility is a super skill. What do you think of that? Would you go for invisibility?
No, because you can always see, like, they may say they're invisible, but you can always see them in some way or form. It's like, you know, light reflections. It's
yeah, but how about if you could have true invisibility? Would you want that?
Yeah, you could just like slip away from any awkward situation. Just kind of go, not here.
Or awkward slip, girl, slipping away from any awkward. It feels like a bit of a waste of invisibility, though.
What
if
could
all you're going to
slip?
do it is slip
I
away.
just slip over and kick people.
That is quite a niche superhero. I slip and kick. Ben Faby came up with one, Futures Boy, with the power of 2020 hindsight. So he just knew exactly what was going to happen in the future. And to be honest, I wouldn't want that super skill because it just ruined the surprise of everything, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Just imagine if you knew everything that was going to go on. It'd make your life easier. It'd make you have the ability to plan out stuff.
Yeah,
but
just like, I know exactly what's going to be on the test. Ha ha ha.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that
It seems a bit like cheating, though.
well, if you had the superhero skill, I'm sure that you'd have to try and use it ethically or really unethically, like Back to the Future 2, where they go out and like know every single sports result before it happened. But it
That
all went
ruined
wrong
everything.
because Biff got the results, and it just resulted in an alternate world future where everything was wrong.
Awful.
And weirdly, Biff was a bit like Donald Trump in that world future. Maybe that's what Donald Trump's got. I don't know. Russell, who's my brother and esteemed silent editor of the podcast, said, "I'd be Super Dames. I'm not sure about what power, but I'm sure whatever it was, I'm sure it'd be amazing."
Just to point this out, he hasn't spelt it like our surname Dames. He spelled it like theatre Dames.
Well, I reckon Russell was trying to give away something there, and maybe he wants to be a pantomime dame in another life. Kathke said,
The amazing nagger, because according to my family, I am the best at it.
"I think you've got some competition, Kath. You haven't met my wife." I didn't say that, by the way, because in case she listens, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for that comment. Heidi Boyle said, "According to Sky, I'm super mum. I've got laser eyes and I use it to protect people. I'm imagining it's a telekinesis thing." Oh, that sounds like a good one. Super mum. And I think there'll be competition for that because my wife, as well as being an amazing nagger, she's a super mum as well. Did I just redeem?
Not at all.
Oh, I was trying to recover from that. I don't think I will. John Cook said, "Can't remember if I've answered this, but I'd be the dog whisperer, getting all canines to do my bidding."
Seems a bit evil.
Yeah, just imagine if you had control of all dogs, you could do loads of stuff. And our tiny little story of listener kindness is again from the esteemed editor of the podcast, Russell, who said, "Kay babysits for her next door neighbours, who's my sister, and Kelly and I went to the shop for one of Mummy's mates because she had trouble getting around." So well done, Russell. You are a scholar and a gentleman, and you are doing fine stuff out in the world. That's it. That's really it now, Charlotte. I know, but we'll be back next week with another kindness project, and I'll look forward, listeners, to speaking to you then.